Hi, and welcome to a guide to completing the CXC Mathematics SBA. Today we'll be focusing on the data collecting tools. The first data collecting instrument we are going to look at is the questionnaire. A questionnaire is a set of written questions which allows for either open-ended or closed-ended responses. The responses to open-ended questions are numerous, while the responses to closed-ended questions are limited. Here's an example of an open-ended question. Note carefully, the respondent can answer in a variety of ways. And here's an example of a closed-ended question. Note carefully, the respondent can only answer in one out of the four ways. These ways are normally set by the researcher. Let us now see how questionnaires are designed. In designing your questionnaire, your first consideration should be the aim of your research. This means that all your questions should be in direct alignment with the aim. This is because the purpose of designing the questionnaire is to answer your research questions. Your second consideration is your respondents. Age, sex, educational level, religion are all factors that should be considered when you are framing your questions. This is because some questions can be deemed offensive, and your aim should be to have each respondent respond to your questions in a comfortable way. Your third consideration is your sequencing. This adds order to your research questions. Let us now look at when questionnaires is best used. Questionnaires are best used for mixed research. Here is an example of a mixed research in which a questionnaire can be the instrument used to collect the data. The second data collecting instrument we're going to look at is a survey. A survey, as defined by Chuck and Scott, is the collection of information from a sample of individuals through their responses to questions. This sounds very similar to that of a questionnaire. So let us look at the difference between a survey and a questionnaire. Surveys are like questionnaires, except that surveys is process-oriented. That is, they have an analytical component. Surveys have targeted respondents. And finally, surveys can have both objective and subjective responses. For your Mathematics SBA, there are some free online surveys that are available for your use. These include SoGo Survey, SurveyMonkey, and Google Forms. Let us now look at interviews. Interviews are ways of getting information, usually through oral communication, from oral questioning. There are three types of interviews. These are structured, semi-structured, and unstructured interviews. You will be using mostly semi-structured interviews. Semi-structured interviews would be a series of well-designed, well-ordered questions the researcher came up with, and these questions must be associated with your research question. Semi-structured interviews may be conducted via several modalities. These include telephone interviews, interviews of panel, one-on-one interviews, or you can interview multiple people over social media. Interviews are conducted to get people's opinion on their experiences. They are also conducted if both the interviewer and interviewee have the facility or infrastructure to conduct the interview. For example, If the interviewer is using a particular platform, the interviewee must also have that particular platform in order for communication to take place between both parties. The third criteria for conducting these interviews is that the time of the interviewer and interviewee must synchronize in order to conduct the interview. Another data collecting instrument that you could use is the observation table. An observation table is an organized table used to record data that the researcher has observed. Here is an example of an observation table. When designing your observation table, you should give your table an appropriate heading. Use variables that are relevant to answering the research question. You should also include a variable tally or comments where necessary. Establish order in the table. For example, names may be put in alphabetical order, or you can put dates in a chronological order. Tables are generally used when there is a voluminous amount of data collected by the researcher. That is, if you have a set of information that are disorganized, a table can help in the organization of these numbers. The final data collecting instrument we are going to look at is the checklist. This is a list of systematically structured questions that verify whether critical steps in a procedure involved in the research is being carried out. Here is an example of a checklist. Checklists are generally used in observation data, and it is also used when the responses to research questions are limited. Here is an example of some limited research responses. When designing a checklist, you should ensure that it has all the features of a table. In addition to the following, questions must have a logical sequential flow. Though responses might be finite, it must include all possible options. Finally, your table should include a narrative section for comments. This will come in handy to give explanations for anything the researcher has observed. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. See you in the next video where we'll be discussing the presentation of data.